most challenging thing the first 5 weeks is constitutional law. It's a monster of a block.
Something that you don't really look forward to, but it's something that you need to know. It's something that you're going to use for the next 30-year career.
A lot of people talk about how the test is hard and the concepts are hard to understand. Supposedly, they always lose people from the class after the con law test.
It's stressful to think about those situations and if you don't recall something, right? And whether you're going to mess up the prosecution of that crime or something gets thrown out that shouldn't have been because you didn't follow the right constitutional law.
I think after con law is done, it'll be kind of take a breath and like, all right, first month and a week is done. Like, still have to worry about my academics, but I can kind of relax a little bit, feel a little bit more comfortable, like I'm meant to be here, I'm supposed to be here, and I'm going to graduate. We've been doing a lot of classroom work, which is great in moderation, but actually I like the hands-on stuff, kind of applying what we learn in the classroom and trying to actually do it within scenarios or doing hands-on with CPR dummies, things like that.
You get to see everything you've learned. How do we relate it to scenarios that we'll be faced with? It'll be a lot of us failing, but failing less and less as we go, because that's the only way you really learn, is to point out your failures and then fix those.
He's bleeding everywhere. He's bleeding out of his arm. He's bleeding out of his leg.
The CPR first responder training that occurred on the track, that is the culmination of the first responder block, which is all the practical portion of everything we learned within the classroom. And I try to create, again, an under stress level, a lot of yelling, a lot of hopefully if something falls across your plate, you better know exactly what to do with it.
CPR was a practical application. We went through different scenarios. One was a choking baby. We went through a kid not being able to breathe. So we do a CPR, and then we were familiar with the AED machine in order to help somebody, revive. So it was a great application. We did different steps, different things, and obviously I think it gets recruits more confident when they're thrown in real life situations.
Most people did well. Officer Coletti's a really, really good instructor, so they had a really, really good sense of what they needed to do once they got in there.
Response to 1266 Sutter Road or disturbance.
The convenience store scenario involved a clerk who had a customer pass out within the store. The recruits have to recognize the medical emergency side of things. And we do little clues like maybe a diabetic bracelet, the orange juice that the person has.
Once you get the initial call, you kind of come up with your own vision on how you expect the call to go, and most times it's really wrong. When we initially came, we were like, okay, if she's refusing to leave, we'll just kind of convince her to leave. And then when we got here, she was laying on the ground, I had a blanket on her.
At first we're like, is this a drunk girl? Who is this? What is this about? The store clerk was a mess. So then I walked over, she had a blanket on, she had a backpack, there was no alcoholic odor, anything like that. So then I was like, oh, there's probably more to this. So then we took the blanket off for safety, seeing her diabetic bracelet.
We instantly get in contact with the store owner. The store owner is yelling like, hey, you guys gotta get this lady out of here. She does this all the time. She's interrupting my business. Just yelling, constantly yelling.
We put these distractions within these scenarios so the recruits learn to kind of push the white noise off to the side, the stuff that doesn't matter, and focus on the mission.
Constitutional law applied to that because she had a backpack with her and she was experiencing a medical emergency. So we had to go into the backpack, and then afterwards they kind of questioned me. It was like, did you have permission to go to the backpack? Why did you make that decision? Looking back now, that really helped a lot because it kind of pulled from all these different classes. Now you got to apply it all in one scenario.
We got in the backpack, got a candy, I think it was, and we fed it to her, and she woke up, so we were good.
It's unnerving because you're expecting one thing, and I've dealt with a lot of drunks in previous jobs. You're expecting one thing and get something totally different.
For this role play, they either find the bracelet and they do everything that they need to do correctly, or they're influenced by the store owner and they'll do something really crazy like grab the guy's legs and drag him out of the store on his back, not knowing that he's actually having a medical emergency. I know that's happened because one time when I played the role of the trespasser, they picked up both of my feet and drug me out of the store on my back. That was not a good day for them. We do not treat people like that.
After the exercise, the instructors kind of debrief on every scenario that we do. Don't just look at the person, look what they're wearing, look at their demeanor, look at their wristbands, look at their backpack. Got to start picking things together and painting a picture that you can understand, be able to be flexible and determine what actually is going on.
I think the only thing we got critiqued on was to be a little faster, because the biggest safety thing in law enforcement is seeing the hands, and was under the blanket. So kind of prioritize safety, but at the same time take care of the scene and take care of your patient.
Okay, is the scene safe? Yes, sir. Okay, so there's no weapons on her?
We recruit you very well on that scenario, and I do believe it is because of the proximity of first responder and the diabetic training, so that they know that not everybody should be treated the same way, that you might have to recognize that this person is having a medical emergency, even though the clerk is yelling at you the whole time, get him out of my store.
I think the biggest takeaway was just to take in your entire environment and understand everything that's going on, and not just listen to the person who called you or the first person or the loudest person. Drown that out and look for everything. You need to observe everything and then work from there.
The Randy and Karen scenario is based on the fact that this country is founded on free speech, and you don't have to necessarily like what your neighbor is doing or has to say, but short of an incitement of violence, you've got to deal with different people in this world.
Enjoying my freedom.
I just, why is he silent? Randy and Karen. Oh.